Fellows, welcome back to the More Than Average Men podcast. I am your host, Michael Benton, and you are listening or watching to episode 7. All right, welcome back to the podcast. I greatly appreciate it. If you've already been tapping in with me, thank you so much for continuing on the journey. If you're new to myself or the podcast, again, I greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much for tapping in. This week, we're going to talk about value. I've been seeing, and a lot of men, social media, even in person, like devaluing themselves, right? Just the way they act and they present themselves and the gestures that they make and the things that they do, totally devaluing themselves. And it's really, I don't know, I would say it's to blame for society and how it's kind of indoctrinated, these so-called beliefs or whatever of what men should be, how they should act, and what they should do, and the value that they bring is craziness. And so I definitely wanted to dive in that into that concept, that aspect of value for us, because it's gotten out of hand, honestly. There's a hyper focus that men try to obtain, and that's the extrinsic value, right? So the definition of that is described as to satisfy a unmet need, such as the desire to be appreciated, to be approved, accepted, in order to avoid negative emotions, right? So when you see a man out there, or, obviously if you're doing this yourself, where you're looking to outside influences to make you feel appreciated, to make you feel like you're accepted in society and you're accepted in that circle, or you get someone's approval from something that you've either done for them, or you contributed, or you've gifted them, or whatever the case may be, you're looking at it totally wrong, bro. You're looking at it totally wrong, because if you rely on extrinsic value, if you rely on outside forces to make you feel better about yourself, you are going to be in one hell of a battle for the rest of your life. Honestly, right? You're always going to be looking for someone else to validate your presence. You're always going to be looking for someone else to validate how important you are in society. You're always going to be looking for someone else to validate that you can be loved and that you can get love. And you're running a marathon that you're not training for. You're not training for this particular marathon. You will lose, right? You will lose. And I think the major thing that we need to focus on is not so much extrinsic value, what others are thinking and what others expectations of us are, but more so intrinsic value, right? What do we expect for ourselves, right? We need to get more in tuned with who we are and what we want, and the things that we provide and the value that we have within ourselves, and stop caring about what other people's expectations of us are, and whether or not that dictates if we're valuable or not, right? So let me get back to this. So extrinsic value, right? So it's which is a motivation to grow and develop. So you choose to act in line with the value of being creative, learning new things, being kind, rather than acting how another person or group expects you to act, right? So instead of you going outside of yourself and looking for validation, and you're looking for approval and appreciation from others, you're doing that from within. You're validating your own approval, right, of yourself and what you bring to the table in all facets. You're validating, your appreciation and the love that you give, and you're accepting of yourself. And who gives a shit about anyone else and what they have any acceptance of you? You know what I mean? Like, we need to get out of that mentality that, in order for me to feel appreciated and valued and loved and accepted, I got to do X. I got to bring this. I got to have this. When 9 times out of 10, if we're talking about relationships, if for 9 times out of 10, the other person more than likely isn't bringing half of what you bring to the table. They're not. And the two things that they do bring to the table, which is they're more than likely is going to be their looks, right? And what they can give us sexually. That's it. You know what I mean? Like that's all they're bringing to the table for the most part, if we're talking about relationships. And so we need to get back to valuing ourselves, bro. Like we as individual men, we have so much value to bring other than our financial means and us being able to provide and do all these things for, the other people, right? And so I wanted to really dive into value because I think that I think there's a lack of that going on in the culture of men, and with more value within ourselves, and when we recognize that, it can shift the game. It can shift your mindset because you're no longer pigeonholed or handcuffed to the idea that, okay, I'm only valuable if I'm providing this. I'm only valuable if I'm providing that, if I'm doing this, if I'm saying these things, if I'm showing up in this type of way, if I'm reacting like this way, if I'm showing these types of emotions. Like, it's nonsense. You're always chasing. You're always chasing. And I don't know about you, but I'm not chasing anything, right? I'm of the mindset that, again, I talk about this a lot, but as far as like the universe and things of that nature, and I know it's kind of woo woo for some of you guys, but hang with me. For me, the energy that I possess and that I put out there in the world comes back to me tenfold. You know what I mean? And so I don't need to chase. I don't need to chase the things that I'm after, right? Because that's the type of value that I bring. That's the type of energy that I bring, right? Those things will just come to me. I don't need anyone else's approval. I approve myself, and a lot of you guys, it may take a lot of work on yourselves. And I didn't say it was going to be easy, but it's going to take a lot of work on yourselves to get you to a point where you are running with that type of mindset, right? You are running with that type of confidence where it's like, okay, I don't need no chick to validate me. I don't need to show you what my bank account looks like in order for me to be to get your approval and to hang in this particular circle, or to be of the caliber to grab that type of woman. I don't need that. I'm me. I got what I got. I am who I am. This is what I bring to the table. You're either going to match that or you don't. And if you don't, that's totally cool, right? That's totally cool. So I feel very strongly about this particular topic. And so if you guys see me getting animated, that's the reason why. All right. So what does value mean, right? Because I think a lot of people get confused with value with worth, right? And so when we look at value, it's holding something in high regard, and it is the importance of a particular item. So in this case, this would be you. You would be the particular item, right? And it's also defined as your usefulness. And so I want to pose a question to you guys is do you hold yourself as someone of importance? Have you ever? Have you, do you believe that you have value? Other than your financial means and how much money you make and the kind of car you drive and the house you have, do you believe that you have value? If that was all stripped away from you and you were broke, you were dead broke, right? And you were starting all over from whatever career you're in. You're starting all over, starting from the bottom. Do you believe that you still have value? I guarantee you 9 times out of 10, you guys would say no. You would say no. Because your mind has been conditioned to believe that, okay, I'm only of value when someone tells me that I am, or I do something for someone, or someone says they appreciate me, or I'm giving monetary things to someone, right? Or I have this amount of money, or I have this type of car, or I have this type of job, right? You're placing your value on the thoughts and the mindset of others and what they believe to be value instead of your own. And so again, we have to be able to kick that type of mindset, kick that type of habit, right? Our value comes from within. We have, as individual men, you have so much value, bro, right? And it's not dependent on, your status, your economical status, your financial status, right? It's non-dependent of that. You want to know where your character comes from. Or I'm sorry, you want to know where your value comes from. Your value comes from the character that you are, the person that you are. That's where your value comes from. Your value comes from the belief of yourself, right? That's where your value comes from. What kind of type of person are you? What kind of person are you? Right? Are you loyal? Are you responsible? Are you a giver? Are you generous? Are you kind? Are you respectful? Are you open-minded? Like, these are all characteristics. Now, whether you place importance on one or the other is totally up to you. That's dependent upon you. But I want you to understand that your value comes from the type of person that you are, the character that you portray. And I guess that's actually a wrong place. That's the wrong way to say it, because you're not acting. We're not here to act, right? Like this is who I am. So I guess a better way to say it is the character that you embody, right? That's where your value comes from. Your belief of yourself. Do you truly believe that you have value? That you have value to offer to society, to your peers, to your loved ones, right? Do you believe yourself to be of someone of importance outside of the materialistic things that you may or may not need to provide based on someone else's thoughts or perception of value? Do you believe that? I think these are questions that you need to ask yourself, because if you don't, this is a serious conversation that you need to be having with yourself. Because what you're going to do is you're going to end up finding that as long as you continue to move how you move, right? And you yourself have diluted your mindset and placed importance on what others expect of you, that's going to be detrimental to you at some point. That's going to find you at some point, right down the road. Because people are going to take advantage of you, particularly, right? The minute you don't show up in the way that in which they want you to or expect you to, they're going to let you go, right? They're either going to talk about you behind your back, they're going to say that you're not good enough for them, or whatever the case may be. You're no longer going to be a part of that circle. You're going to be looked at as average, whatever that looks like. If you continue on the path that you're on in regards to how you value yourself, and whether or not that's coming from inside you, if that's coming from external circumstance or external influences, is going to have a really big effect on you down the road. Because I guarantee you, at some point, you're going to get to a roadblock in your life where it's like you feel like you've been taken advantage of. You're going to start to create resentment for maybe that particular person or group of people, right? Because the minute that you don't show up in the manner in which they want you to, now you just like everybody else. Now everything that you've done for them and said and provided is out the window. When you no longer can do that, when you no longer can maintain that, right? That's why you usually see, like, if you ever look at examples where, sports players and they have a lot of money, maybe they gamble, they lose all their money, and then their baddie that they're with, right, she dips, she's out. Once the money is gone, it's a wrap. Right? Same thing. That person only valued you because of what you could provide for them. You were able to give them certainty, but the minute you have no more money and you living like everybody else, you're normal, right, so to speak, that person doesn't think you ain't got no value, right? And what do? In that situation? You get depressed, right? You probably start to create anxiety for yourself. You talk negatively about yourself. You get down on yourself. All these things, right? All these things start to manifest within inside you, all because the value that you thought you brought was and only money or fame or whatever. And so we as men, we got to identify, okay, I'm way more valuable than a piece of paper, right? I'm way more valuable than what I can provide for someone or anything like that. I'm way more valuable. Why? Because of who I am and how I present myself to the world, and how I carry myself, and the values that I stand by, right? And my moral judgment and me being ethical and all these things. And for some of you guys, listen, for some of you guys that are listening to this might sound like, bro, I ain't even trying to hear this. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just trying to get the bag. I got other things to worry about. I'm cool. If this person, as long as I'm with a baddie, I don't really care. I just want the money. And if that's your mindset, I'm not hating, bro. Like that's do your thing. You know what I mean? Like to each his own. But for the ones that are have that hesitation, for the ones of you that do sense like, man, like, I've been in that situation before where, if I wasn't entertaining them in a certain way or being a certain way or providing a certain way, I wasn't getting that love that I was when I was doing those things. You know what I mean? So if you've been in that situation, then you know what I'm talking about, and you want to change that, right? This is the stuff that I talk about, bro. This is for people that want to change, that want to do better and grow within themselves. And if you don't, that's totally fine. At least you know that. I always preach, man, like as long as you have as long as you make a conscious decision on whether you want to change your life and grow in certain areas, or you're comfortable where you're at, as long as you know what decision you're making, that's the right decision for you. Totally. You know what I mean? And like I said before, I kind of harped on this already, but majority of men correlate the value by how much money they make. The less they have financially, the more they devalue themselves, according to whom? And that answer would be everyone but themselves. Everyone but themselves. And we need to get back to understanding that the importance is that we are important. We, as in our own individual selves, you are important. You are valued. You have value. You have things to offer to people, right? Outside of it being monetary and physical things and things of that nature. Just you as an individual, just you as a being on this planet, you have value, bro. You really do. But no one is going to be able to see that until you do. The true value. No one's going to be able to witness that until you are able to witness that for yourself. And so, for a lot of you, it's going to take some work. It's going to take some dialogue between yourself, right? Some journaling, some whatever it is, some time alone in which you can reflect on, okay, who am I? What value do I have? What value do I bring? Identify that. And if you get to a point where you don't know, it's been so long where you've held on to this idea that, maybe these one or two things is what your value is, and that's it, then obviously, it's time to go to work, baby. You know what I mean? Like it's time to make some changes. So make sure that you take some time to identify what you believe to be your value. And I think another way that you can also do this too is by asking your close friends, asking those who love you, asking those who if you were dead broke, laying in the street, they would help you. They would still love you. Ask them what your value is. What do you think? How do you think I'm valuable? How am I valuable to this relationship? There you go. Ask them that. How am I valuable to you? How am I valuable to this relationship? And they might tell you, right? And they might say like, bro, you're super kind every time, or they might say, whenever I have something going on, you're always there to listen, and you never judge me, right? They might say, oh man, you know what? I am very irresponsible when it comes to money, but dude, you're so responsible when it comes to money. Like I come to you for money advice, or I try to follow your lead when it comes to money. Like ask those who truly love you and respect you and care for you outside of, anything but your internal being. Ask them, what value do you bring to that relationship? What do they believe that your value is, right? And we're not going off just their sole opinion, right? But this is just to kind of give you an idea, because some of their ideas might align with what you've already been thinking, or it might reinforce what you already know. So that's another way that you can kind of figure out what your value is, right? By asking those that you particularly love. What does it look like when you devalue yourself? Because I think you can get to a point where, again, you've kind of been tunnel vision, right? You kind of been running the same track meet, the same marathon the whole time, and you lose sight. And I've been there, done that, right? And so that's why self-awareness is so important, and being a conscious being, as I always speak about, is so important, because you can be conscious of what's happening, not only externally but internally as well. So what happens, or what does it look like when you devalue yourself? Speak negative about yourself. blame yourself when things go wrong, think other people are better than you, right? Think that you don't deserve happiness, love, peace, etc. Right? This is what happens when you devalue yourself, because through all of those examples, right, you're no longer internalizing your value. All those things that I just mentioned, all those examples are all extrinsic value. Those are all values that are outside of you. So you got to get back to you. You got to get back to the core of your being and who you are. And if you think that this doesn't play a significant role in any aspect of your life, you're dead wrong. Dead wrong. If you think that value is, it's just kind of, it's talk, you know what I mean? It's woo woo. It's whatever it is. It's not really that important. As long as I'm out here, as long as I have a job and I'm getting the bag and I'm doing my routines every day, I'm not worried about value. But if you sit down and really look at it, how do you have that job that you have right now? How do you have that job? Because it's not because of they needed a body and you just happen to be available. You have a particular skill, I'm assuming, right? You have something that they need from you in order to complete that particular job or task. That, my friend, is value. If you did not have that particular value or skill, you would not be working there. Unless it's like McDonald's or something or whatever, right? Where they can just plug and play anybody in those type of positions. But you get what I'm saying, right? Everything has value. Everything you do, your value is a part of everything. And so whether or not you look at that at a deeper level, I don't know, bro. That's totally up to you. Right? And so I always just thought that for me, like, the if I can understand what my value was, I can be that much more valuable to society, to my peers, to those that I'm trying to help better themselves. You, men, right? I understand my value and my position as a coach, as a father, as a brother, as a son. I understand my position. I understand the value that I have in those particular roles and what I bring. And it has nothing to do with the things that I provide within each of those roles. Every one of those roles, my value comes from everything that I have within inside. Everything. The way my role as a sibling, right? My role as a brother to my sister and my brother, right? That all comes. It's not what I give them. It's not, if anything, monetary. My value comes from being responsible, being respectful when they come and talk to me, right? My value comes from being open-minded. My value comes from being a listener when they need me. My value comes from the love that I give them, the unconditional love that I give them. That's where my value comes in from. That's how I'm valuable to them, right? Every role that you're in, you are providing value in some sort, which is how when it comes to jobs, that's how you got that particular role. So you need to take a deep look and honestly, I'm just, as a suggestion, I wouldn't brush off the fact that, value is, he's just talking woo-woo stuff. No, bro, like really take a look at it and you'll see. And for those of you guys that have experienced what it is like to no longer be able to provide that particular value in which that particular person or group expected, you know what it's like to be thrown to the wayside. It hurts. So again, find your value, understand what your value is. And when you do get to that point where you understand what you bring to the table in any facet, right? In any type of regard, as far as relationships or social or personal or whatever the case might be, you're going to shine. You're going to smile more. You're going to walk taller. You're going to be upright. You're going to walk with confidence because you know yourself. You know who you are. You know what you bring to the table. And it has nothing to do with anyone else. It has nothing to do with anyone else's expectations other than your own. And I promise you, once you understand that, you'll go so much farther. You'll go so much farther. So my overall message, right? My overall message is your level of success. And again, whatever that looks like for you, because we all define it very, very differently. So, but whatever that means to you, the path to fulfillment starts and ends with who you believe you are to be and that of which you want to be. Okay? Remember that. So this weekend, today, tonight, tomorrow, now, take some time, write down, what do you believe that your value is? How are you valuable? And get yourself to a point where, you know that like the back of your hand. You know what your value is. And the only important factors in that is that of which you believe you to be. All right. So again, I hope you guys took something away from that. I love these conversations. Also too, if you have any questions, concerns, comments, things that you're dealing with that you want me to address on one of these episodes, I would love to. All you got to do is email me at bentoncoaching@gmail.com. Shoot me your question, and then I will answer it on one of the upcoming episodes. As I always say, I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for tapping in with me. Subscribe wherever you are listening or watching, whether you're on the podcast or you're on the YouTube channel. Please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I cannot do this without you. I appreciate your support. I greatly, greatly do. And as I always say, I will see you on the next episode. Peace out, guys.